So 6 months ago, Apple came out with the M1 Mac Minis, and I happen to have one. I ended up buying it a few months later, and I want to talk about it in this video. I want to tell you all about my experience with the M1 Mac Mini. Hi there, I'm Velanche. I'm a DJ and founder of local DJ collective Dust Productions. I am also a budding music producer making music right now, along with playing out music. So if you're interested in the world of music production, DJing, or just want to be able to keep up with my creative endeavors, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and you'll learn more. So before I get into talking about the M1 Mac Mini, I am just excited. I'm so excited that we DJs are now able to play out a bit more. I wasn't sure, frankly, about what was going to be happening, with getting back into DJing, and then it turned out in the month of May that I'm doing 4 gigs. And we have more gigs coming up, me and my crew. And it's not only great to be able to go out and DJ again, it's also great to be able to see faces old and new, and just playing out again. Just playing out again. It's just a cathartic experience for all of us. I've been playing several gigs with Jason, and also Jason and Vincent in some events, and it's just been a lot of fun, and people are just really enjoying listening to music again. We haven't gotten into the dancing part yet. I'm sure that's going to be coming soon. All of us in the crew have been fully vaccinated, which is great. Let's try to get that nip in the bud, and let's go ahead and go out and party again. I just wanted to put that out there. All right, so the subject at hand. Back in June of last year, Apple has announced Apple Silicon, which is its system on a chip. The only thing most people need to know about this ARM architecture is that it was originally made for mobile devices as a way of being able to put a lot of computing power on a chip. So you get computing power on your devices that are way more powerful than the computers that came out even 20 years ago or 10 years ago even. It's just kind of crazy. And so there has been some attempts to be able to get ARM-based processors into desktop. Now it's Apple's turn, and it decided to do that. And so it actually have been testing out ARM-based processors in their mobile devices over the last 10 years. And they've learned quite a bit in terms of being able to balance both efficiency and performance. Efficiency meaning you don't want the phone to be going all hot and melting and all these gross things that could happen if you don't do things right. Kind of like what happened with Samsung a few years ago when they had exploding phones. And also power efficiency. You're trying to be able to have quote unquote all day battery life so that you can be able to have it stretch longer and longer with each use. There are several different kinds of processors combined into one chip. Because it doesn't draw a lot of heat, you're not going to be hearing fans running for the most part. You'll probably hear it in rare instances, but otherwise, that's one of the great things about it, is that the chip is cooler, and because it's cooler, you could be able to run more processes on this cooler chip. And so in November of last year, Apple did the last announcement of 2020 by introducing 3 M1 base Apple Silicon Macs. And M1 is the first chip based on the Apple Silicon design. So the three computers that were introduced were the 12-inch MacBook Air, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini M1 edition. And I ended up getting my M1 Mac Mini in mid-February. And I had it spec'd out, 16 gigs of RAM. Also, I've chosen a 1 terabyte hard drive. It's been a great experience for me using the M1 Mac Mini. I just absolutely love it. All the hype was not just hype, but it was the real deal that the performance is just pretty mind-blowing. There's been like tons and tons and tons of video on the M1 base Macs that people have done, and I will link some of the videos that pertain more to music production in the description. It was easy. Installation was really easy. I already had attached to my MacBook Pro the Apple wireless extended keyboard known as the Magic Keyboard. I had that, and I had the Magic Trackpad 2, and I've also had a USB hub and a 34-inch LG monitor. The one thing I was really pleasantly surprised about was that when I first turned the computer on, it was able to find my Bluetooth devices, which meant I didn't have to plug anything in like you used to have to do in the old days to get your peripherals recognized. And I'd never had any of the Bluetooth problems that most people had reported early on when the computer first was released. But I also don't use any third-party Bluetooth devices. So, of course, your mileage may vary. And I imagine that by now, most manufacturers with Bluetooth devices that are supposed to work on the Macs, they should work by now. Apple has put out a couple of fixes. You may want to be able to check with, first of all, making sure that your OS is up to date, and second of all, making sure that the Bluetooth hardware that you're using supports Apple Silicon, or at least Big Sur. So my experience using the M1 Mac Mini has generally been really positive. I use Logic a lot, and whereas I had issues here and there using Logic on my MacBook Pro as time went on, I haven't really had that many problems with Logic at all on my M1 Mac Mini. Now, I have some glitches here and there, but these glitches are like normal usage type things where sometimes you might run into a software bug that gets to be a problem, and then I may have to force quit it and then restart. But then every time that I had to restart in that way, and like I said, it wasn't that many times. I think since February, maybe 2 or 3 times I had to do that. The autosave function did its thing, and it worked well. Now, I will say that, like many folks who are in music production, the plugins and maybe the DAW are issues, or have been issues, if you're trying to run them in Big Sur. Because Big Sur, first of all, you have to run Big Sur on the M1 Mac Minis. You can't run the older Mac OS like Catalina. And then your plugins and your DAW have to be able to work on it. And so Logic and Reaper are the only 2 DAWs that I know right now that has native M1 Apple Silicon support. Ableton Live Suite 11. It's able to run it fine. I don't use it as much right now, but it does run it. Also, if you want to be able to have I'm going to say most of your plugins work in Logic or any of the other DAWs that don't have native M1 support, as long as you have Rosetta 2 in the background, then it's going to work fine. Now, even in Logic, what you would have to do is you would have to go in and set Logic to be able to run in Rosetta mode. And once you do that, then the plugins will kick in that do work with the Intel-based machine. Most of them I found run fine. And one of the things that I found that kind of catch me off guard from time to time is that if I try to run the M1 native Logic Pro with my keyboard, which is the Complete Control S49 Mark II, sometimes the keyboard won't get recognized, and I have to go back into the Rosetta version of Logic in order to get it to work. So you got little gotchas like that. There are more M1 native versions of plugins that are being written and released. And also as far as DJ software, as of version 2.5, Serato DJ Pro now does support M1 Apple Silicon, and Tractor Pro, I don't believe that has that support yet. I think that's actually going to be coming out in the summertime. So another thing too is video production, and I have Final Cut Pro, but I haven't used Final Cut Pro yet. That's one thing I need to learn. But I have been using LumaFusion, and LumaFusion, as you may know, is a professional grade video application for iOS. And I've been using it on my iPad. Lately, with some of the 4K videos that I have been filming, the file size can get kind of large, and it can be really hard to be able to get the file to go onto my iPad Pro. I will try to copy the file over or even try to airdrop it. And if I do airdrop, it's mostly times out. If I try to be able to copy it, just a drag and drop from the device via the Files app, it also kind of croaks too. There are iOS apps that you can be able to run on it, and LumaFusion happened to be one of those apps. And there were a couple of quirks that I had to kind of get used to, but once I figured things out, I was able to edit the last YouTube video I've done in quick order, and it worked out great. And yeah, it saved my butt because otherwise I would have been in a world of hurt. Also, there are other iOS apps that are being ported over to the M1 Mac. So Moog's Model 15, which is a iPad music app based on the synthesizer Model D, that is working inside Logic. Hopefully there'll be more iOS apps that will be able to be ported over so that you can be able to use it on your Mac too, as well as your iOS device. So my final thoughts on the M1 Mac Mini that I have, like I said, I'm really enjoying using it. I'm looking forward to pushing things with Logic and also learning Final Cut Pro on it. I'm looking forward to seeing other iOS apps, particularly iOS music apps, get ported over to the Mac side. I know one question you might have is, should you go out and buy an M1 Mac Mini? I would say right now, at this time, if you can wait a few weeks, wait until Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference is happening in June. They will I almost guarantee it, they will announce what is happening for Apple Silicon. You could hear maybe the next generation of the M-base processor for the Macs, and maybe following that are new machines that run it. So I would wait if you can. Otherwise, like I said, there's the three machines I mentioned, including the Mac Mini that I have, but also Apple last month has announced the new iMacs. The iMacs that are the first Macs that completely made for the M1 processor from the ground up. That's worth checking out too, because it's got cool new things in there, like a 4.5K monitor. It's got a lighter design. It's got 7 different colors. It's got studio quality microphone. It has supposedly really good speakers. So that might be worth checking out. But otherwise, if you can hold off for a few more weeks and wait till Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference to check on what Apple might be releasing, that would be my advice to you. There's been a debate about whether or not you should get an 8 gig or 16 gig. If you're doing anything that involves making money in a professional way from your machines, I would spend the money. And if you're running a business, I would buy it off. I would really go for the max in terms of the amount of RAM you can be able to get. The amount of disk space you need, that's going to be up to you to be able to try to sort that out. But I would also say that if you're going to be doing something that involves transfer of large files, because they all have Thunderbolt ports in there, that may be a possibility. You can probably get one of those Thunderbolt hubs and Thunderbolt capable drives that could probably be able to solve that kind of problem for you. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and leave them down in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them for you. But otherwise, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you want to be able to subscribe to keep up with things that are music production and DJ related, and also if you want to be able to keep up with my musical created endeavors, then yes, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There will be much more to come. Thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to talking to you soon. All right, peace.